If you get caught into a Russian tie like this, here's 3 ways that we can get out of it. Now, before I show you the ways to get out of the Russian tie, let's kind of just talk about the Russian tie to begin with and why it is such a dominant grip, both for sport and for self-defense. If we're talking sport, right? Somebody gets a collar tie on you, they're starting to try and snap you down, or they're putting head pressure. We grab with the opposite wrist, use our shoulders, start kind of popping their elbow a little bit, and we're gonna get this 2-on-1 grip. Extremely dominant grip from this point. Again, especially if we're talking like wrestling, jiu-jitsu, this is a great way to control and isolate an arm. At this point, I have tons of takedown options. I can kind of sweep out the leg a little bit. I can square it up and start kind of getting heavy on the hips. If he starts trying to pull his arm back, I can stuff it in, weave this arm through, we can crank up and come down this way, you know, a little bit of painful takedowns. You have a ton of options. If we're talking like self-defense type situations, right? Maybe I'm trying to talk to this person, all of a sudden they start reaching for something, I get hands-on right away, and now I switch and get to Russian ties so that I can lock this arm and isolate this arm down. Russian ties in general are just a great way to get control, isolate an arm, and pretty much just have your way with this person. There's a caveat to this though, right? A lot of people are under the assumption that because I have this Russian tie, that he can now just start throwing punches, he can do whatever damage he wants to do, which yes, in theory, if I'm sitting here just holding on to his arm, absolutely that can happen. So you have to understand that when we get into these Russian tie positions, I wanna get heavy, I wanna have a good bite. Sometimes you'll even see some of us like take this wrist and actually tuck it behind our elbows here and just make it a little bit tighter. I'm gonna work my head pressure in, I'm gonna get heavy on my hips, and now even if he was trying to throw punches, I'm constantly moving him around, trying to get him down to the ground. So if someone has a good bite on it, you're gonna be in a lot of danger. So again, let's go over a couple escapes from it. So the biggest thing that we have to keep in mind is let's not focus as much about striking, regardless of whether this is sport or street. Let's focus more so on getting our body positioning correct and just essentially isolating this grip so that he can't do anything with it. First things first, I have to fight this head pressure. Typically, like I said, guys are gonna have this head pressure in. I have to start kind of peeling and fighting this. If he go ahead, bite down, if he's really putting pressure on that arm, I have to first start trying to fight this head pressure. And the most basic way that we can do is pull the head down, get that grip, start driving the head away from you. Now, this is not gonna do much because what can happen at this point is he feels this pressure, he can easily now switch, grab this wrist with his hands, and literally just Russian tie me directly to the other side. So again, you can kind of screw yourself if we don't act on that. So when we do get back into this Russian tie, and I'm putting this head pressure on, this is great, but I now still have to utilize this arm. So either I'm gonna have to put this Russian tie on and start kind of trying to square up and get heavy to where they can't re-drag me, or even better, I'm gonna take this arm, fight for it, because again, he's gonna try and keep this locked. So I gotta fight and weave this arm up to at least to where I can just get like my fingertips on their neck. Now at this point, as he's trying to pull his arm back down, I can push off his head, square it up with him a little bit, and as I start trying to stiff arm, I can now break free of this Russian tie. From here, if I'm able to keep this head pressure, I might be able to kind of snap in and start working chokes, or if we're talking like striking, I can start working strikes from here. We can work our uppercuts. If he starts trying to like pressure back into me, whatever, I can easily just square off and we get back to our feet. So that's kind of like the basic way to get out. Option number 2, a little bit more advanced. Again, if I can't, maybe I can't fight this head pressure, right? Maybe he's just really driving that head into me. So at this point, I want to start looking for the far elbow. Now, obviously from here, I'm not gonna be able to reach it. So if I'm able to get this head pressure in and I'm able to kind of close the distance a little bit more, I might be able to grab it real quickly. Otherwise, what I want to do is start trying to pull this arm towards my stomach. If I'm able to get it close enough to where I can grab it, great. You may also get these guys where when they feel this pressure, they start shoving it to my stomach, which again, if I'm aware of this, makes this even easier. Either way, whenever this far elbow is in range, I'm gonna reach across, get a good grip, and start pulling it into me. Now notice I keep my elbows nice and tight because I don't want him to be able to re-drag me back. So as I pull this in, now again, I'm gonna take my bottom hand and just weave under. Not trying to fight up because he's still gonna be fighting that grip. I'm literally just gonna kind of roll my hand under as I pull up on this arm, break that arm free. At this point, reach all the way around, grab the back of the tricep. Now, I could just transition from here and work into a cross-body 2-on-1, and I can fight out of here. We can work the body lock takedowns. You can do countless options. I can duck under and work to the back if I want to. So there is a nice transition there. Otherwise, once I weave this out, I can also grab, arm drag through, because you know I love my arm drags, and as I square up, I can now end up on a Russian 2-on-1 form of grip on the other side, and I can do the same thing to him. So you can actually make this a nice drill too if you're drilling this in class. A couple ways. One could be, I start with a collar tie, he puts a Russian tie on. As I post, he switches it to the other side, and you kind of just play this game a little bit. Or you can do this way where I'm gonna go here, and I'm gonna Russian tie. Now he's gonna reach, pull my elbow, yeah, and now he's gonna Russian tie. Now I'm gonna pull it, I'm gonna Russian tie. And you can kind of do some drills out of that just as like a side note. So that you can kind of get reps in this. The third option, a little bit fancy, a little bit of timing required, but if you can hit this, you'll be very satisfied. Now, this is not one that I would technically recommend to do in a self-defense situation, because if you lose control of this, you might screw yourself over. But in sport, 100%. So when you have the collar tie, as they start kind of pulling this arm through, and I start feeling them pressure in, I essentially want to go limp. I just want to go completely dead arm. So as he starts kind of pressuring down into it a little bit and I can feel my shoulder coming down, instead of fighting this, instead of turning into it, I'm going to turn away. Now the key with this is I want my hip close to his hip. So as I start going dead arm, my hip's going to touch his hip. I'm going to whip this arm out, and essentially all I'm doing is turning all the way around and I'm re-entering. To make it even better, I'm going to change levels in the process. So as I drop, as I pull this arm free, I change levels, drop nice and low, come in either with a low double, low single, or come all the way around and I can get the back. Either way, it's a real nice way to just kind of catch him off guard a little bit. Just drive right in. You may not always get a takedown off of that. It may kind of just turn, do it again, right? So it may just kind of turn into like where he squares up right away. We get in a scramble and we square back up a little bit. Again, that might be the case. Either way, trust me, it does catch your partner off guard. So you can kind of chain these together to an extent. Let's say he does the first one, I'm posting, this isn't working, I'm trying to pull his arm free, I can't get this arm up, I can't do this. But either way, when I'm doing all this stuff, I'm fighting this grip at the same time. And if at any point I just kind of feel like he doesn't have the best control, I can always just turn, burn, and drive right back in. If we want to add like more striking with it, I can turn, burn, and right away, we just work uppercuts, whatever. So understand, most importantly, that a good bite on a Russian tie, they have tons of options to take you down. They have tons of options to isolate this. Again, striking's not always going to be the best option because as you start striking, exactly, I'm going to be looking to post more than anything. When we do get into these Russian tie, start finding the head pressure, start trying to isolate and just nullify the grip essentially. But give those 3 options a shot. Let us know what you think. We'll see you next time.